What we're going to do today is I'm going to go over two different things. Okay. I'm going to go over first, let's talk about the debt part with the diversified cash flow account, because I don't know if it's a secret, but most people in this country are in debt, and I think sometimes, especially, we think it's just ourselves. And I always like to start these things out by asking a few questions. Number one, are you 100% sure you're going to have a great retirement, or do you have some doubt? I always ask people that question because I think in our heart of hearts, a lot of us have some doubt, right? The other question I ask people is, if there was a way that you can get completely out of debt in 9 years or less without spending any extra money that you currently are today, would you be interested in finding out how? And you know what? I've never had anybody say no to those questions. So I want to start by talking about debt. And I know this is a little small, but I want to talk about where we are as a nation, because I want people to feel comfortable understanding that it's not just you, it's not just me. Because sometimes we take a look at our own finances and we say, I don't want them to know, or I don't want anybody to know, or I don't know how I'm going to get out of this myself. And the truth is not, you're not in it alone. We're all in the same situation, because the national debt is out of control. The main reason, though, this is happening is because 74 cents out of every dollar that we have is going towards taxes and interest. Because see, I don't know about you, but whenever you're playing a game and you don't really understand the rules, it's kind of hard to win. And before this, and I never knew where all my money was going. And whenever I broke it down, and I said, well, how is 74 cents out of all my money going to taxes and interest? And then I start taking a look at my mortgage. I start taking a look at everything I buy. I started taking a look at what the uncle that I don't even know called Sam is taking from me. And I started realizing, wow, if I can just get control of these two things, there's a possibility that I could be better off financially later on. And so I want to get right into a client that we had a long time ago, about over 10 years ago, got started with us. And I just want to kind of show the example of what happened when they used the diversified cash flow account for debt. What we always do is we have a debt worksheet that goes over, sorry, let me go back. It goes over where you are right now. So some of you have already filled that out, and you have appointments coming, you've already filled that out. But the main thing we want to know first is, let's take an analysis of where we are right now, right? Let's make sure we know not just where we are, but where do we want to go. So if you over here, they put what they were making financially. They put what are their current concerns were, kids, 401ks, what they had. And then over here, we take a look at the savings and investments. What are you currently doing right now? For a lot of us, the first time I took a look at this, I was like, well, saving and investments, well, what's that, right? I got too much debt to save anything. I don't know about investments because I don't know where the right place to put my money. And so we take analysis of these things, and then we take a look at outstanding debts. Now, these are bills. Whenever we're filling these things out, these are bills that we're currently paying on, right? I know, I don't know about y'all. I know some of y'all won't admit this, but for me, there was some bills that not only was I wasn't paying on, but I was never planning on paying on them. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. Look, they can have to figure something out, because right now I need to figure out a way to start saving some money, start doing some other things. But what we want to do with you is we want to find out where you are right now, right? So we take a look at all these things. And if you remember, one of the things that I said earlier is, if we can show you how to pay off all your debt in 9 years or less without spending any extra money. And that's the part that gets people, is how can I pay off all my bills? How can I pay off my mortgage? How can I do all this in 9 years without spending any extra money? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attack interest. Remember what I said, that the two things 74% of every dollar is going to is taxes and interest. Well, you know what? I get a lot of people that say, well, I got this credit card that's 20%. I got this revolving loan that's 19. I got this car that's 6. But what most people don't realize is, I said, well, what about your mortgage? A lot of people say, oh, you don't got to worry about my mortgage, man. I got a 2.2 interest rate. I got a 3.5 interest rate. I got a 5% interest rate. And I think so many of us have been, and I don't want to say bamboozled. I want to say we understand the rules, but we don't know how far it goes into the playbook. So let me show this. regardless of your interest rate, here's what's happening in our first year whenever we are paying our mortgage. Our first year, 78% of all of our money is going toward interest. 78% of what we're paying toward our money, our mortgage is going toward interest. So if you're like me, the first time I saw that, it was like, well, big deal. I already knew that because one of the things we trade off by getting this loan is they're going to take a lot of interest the first few years. I know that. So when I saw this slide, I was like, tell me something I don't know. Then the rabbit hole went a little further though, because by year 10, 65% of the payments that I'm making toward my mortgage is still going toward interest. Now, this got my attention because I was like, it don't matter if I have a 2%, 5%, it doesn't matter what it is. If by year 10, more than half of my payments is still going toward interest, how am I ever supposed to pay this thing off? Think about that. How are we going to pay this thing off if most of my money is going toward interest? Okay, let's keep on going. So year 20. So you're trying to tell me I'm 20 years into my mortgage and I still got 42% of my payments going toward interest? This is the part where we don't pay attention to, because I think for most of us, we've been sold on the fact that, hey, we need to get mortgages because we need to get homes and we need to get 30-year mortgages to where most of the money is going to go toward interest. But we don't realize how far that gets us as far as trying to get out of debt. Finally, by year 30, you got that interest. So if you got a 2%, if you got a 3%, if you got a 5%, you're going to see that true interest rate in your 30th year. Now think about that for a second. How are you ever going to pay off a mortgage if most of the money we're paying is going toward interest? But it gets even worse, because if I back up, I want you to think about this, and I'm not going to answer it because you can't answer me, but I know you can answer yourself. I want you to think about this. How long do most people stay in their home before they move? If you think about it, most of us are staying in our home anywhere between 1 and 15 years before we get a new home. So what's happening? We're spending the majority of our life in 78 to 65 and maybe 42% interest. And that's the game that they've been playing for a long time. That's the game that keeps us in a position to where it's hard for us to get ahead. That's the game where we don't understand the rules, but yet we're wondering, why can't we save money? Well, if you have all this interest, this money you're paying toward interest, it's hard to retire. It's hard to save money. It's hard to ever own a home free and clear. So that's why whenever we talk about this, we talk about, look, let's attack that. Let's attack the interest first. Let's attack taxes first. And most people have tried this. Most people have tried, I think, and I guess let me back up, because I know there's not a lot of people that, or a lot of people say they want to get out of debt, but not everybody's doing the right things to try. So I want to talk about the people who are trying to get out of debt. Sometimes we try by just working harder. I mean, I don't know about you, but nowadays I don't know anybody that doesn't have a job, a part-time job, a side hustle, right? I don't know anybody that doesn't have that, because we're trying to figure out a way to get ahead, spending less, right? There's something, I was talking to a family not too long ago. They went on they said they went 2 years. And I said, 2 years, like eating rice, beans, bread sandwiches, just to figure out a way to get ahead, right? Spending less money, refinancing, consolidating. We try all of these things. And the biggest challenge whenever we're doing these things is we're trying it without any help. And that's where the diversified cash flow account is really going to help, because now we're weaponizing you with a vehicle that's going to give uninterrupted compound interest and still be able to use it. So let's circle back around to how, whenever we say, if we can show you how to pay off all your debt, including your mortgage, in 9 years or less without spending any extra money than you're currently spending. The gotcha is without, right? Where's that extra money coming from? Well, for most people that's trying to get out of debt, we don't pay the minimums on things. If you take a look at them over here, they had a credit cards, medical bills, furniture, mortgage. These are the minimums, but they're paying extra, right? We found over here, between the extra money that they're paying on the bills and then what they're putting in their 401k, $625 a month that they're putting toward that we could probably use to help them get out of debt. I know some of you are thinking, well, hold on. That was extra money, but you taking money out their 401k. You know, some people, some people are real protective about their 401k. Look, I listen, don't mess with my 401k. Well, here's why we choose to do that, because I don't know about you, but whenever I had a 401k back when I was an engineer for Texas Instruments, I didn't really understand how it worked. I understood when they said tax deferred that it meant that I was going to have to pay the taxes sometime in the future, but I didn't really understand it. But here's what they broke down to me. They said, all right, let me ask you a few questions. Would you rather get paid? Would you rather pay taxes now when it's at the lowest, or in the future if it becomes higher? And I said, that's a no-brainer. I'd rather pay taxes now. But how do I know if the taxes are going to get higher in the future? And they take a look at me and say, well, what do you think? You think taxes are going to go up in the future or down? And I took a look at the current economy. I said, they're probably going to go up. So would you rather pay taxes when they go up or when they go down? I said, I'd rather pay taxes at the lowest. Okay. The 401k has you paying taxes at the highest. Second question. Does it make any sense if you're going to pay taxes, right? Would you rather pay taxes on the seed? That means when your money's real small, right? Or the harvest when your money's real big. And that's a no-brainer too. I'd rather pay taxes on the seed. I'd rather pay taxes when my money is small. I don't want to wait till my $100,000 or $100 a month I'm putting in turns into 50,000 or 100,000 and then pay 30-40% taxes on that 100,000. And so the first time they told me that, I said, that doesn't make no sense. That can't be right. So I started looking around and I realized that's how the 401k works. And then I asked myself this question: who told me to get a 401k in the first place? I realized it was the people, it was my mom and them. It was the people, everybody else was getting a 401k. So guess what I did? I got a 401k too. And most of us, if you ask yourself, where did you get the notion to elect for a 401k? For most of us, we just did what everybody else did. So we educate people on it. Do you want to continue putting money in something to where you know, from number one, that you're going to pay taxes at a much higher rate on? Number two, you know for sure that it's going to be the harvest. They're not going to tax the seed. They're going to tax your money when it gets the biggest. And then number three, they're going to tax your money and take out that money at a time when you can't work no more, when you retired, right? When you get to the point to where you tired and you don't want to work no more, now they're going to take 30, 40, and sometimes 42% of your money. So that's why we use the 401k. So what we're able to do for this family is we're able to help them get completely out of debt in 7.8 years. We saved them over $122,000 in interest. And the thing about this is, when you're out of debt, and this is the part where I go back to that quote by Warren Buffett. He says, if poor people would do what rich people would do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. And I always said, but the thing about it, what if poor people don't know what rich people are doing? Right? Because what they're doing, what rich people play the game of no debt. Because if you don't have debt, I want you to think about your situation right now. Just take a second and think about it. If you didn't have any debt right now, how much more money could you save for retirement? For everybody, there's a number that popped in their head that said that's more than what they're doing now. 100% facts, right? And then so we saved them over $1 million in 30 years. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about, because we do get a lot of people that say, they've been fortunate enough to be completely debt free. How is a diversified cash flow gonna help me? I'm debt free, and I'm putting my money in stocks. I'm putting my money in mutual funds, IRA. I'm putting my money over here. So how is the diversified cash flow going to help me? And so I want to take you through a quick history on the market, because I think for most of us, we were promised one thing, we were told one thing, but the truth is, when we uncover it, it really hasn't performed like they said. And so let's break this down. The market has three different eras. From 1901 to 1979, that it was an average of 3.7%. That's what the market did. The stock market, that's what it did. From 1980 to 1999, it did 14%. And then obviously from 2000 to 2011, it's done less than 1%. So what happened? What happened to make this 14%? What happened? How did this 14% happen? Well, it happened because before 1950, less than 2% of people had any kind of stock. In the 80s, and in the 80s is when the government created these 401ks, these IRAs. They created these vehicles. So think about this. If something new was created and you didn't have any way of saving, doing anything before, and you have less than 2% of the Americans that own any of this, and all of a sudden now it's there, people flock to it, right? And that's why we have so many baby boomers right now that they trust the market because they remember this time and they know, you know what, it's going to get back to that time. It's going to get back to that time, but it hasn't. And worst case, we've been selling the same thing over and over again. We've been sold average rate of return. Right? If you talk to any financial advisor, you talk to anybody that's talking about money, they're going to say, let me show you the average rate of return. And what I always want to know is what's the true rate of return, right? Because I don't believe in average rate of return anymore. The truth about it is average rate of return. I'm gonna just call it how it is. It's false. Whenever someone talks to you about the average rate of return, it's completely false, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. And a lot of people, especially if you're in the financial advisor, and some of them don't know this. Someone don't take the time to say, what is the average rate of return? What does that mean? Okay, let's break it down real quick. So let's say you had $100,000, and then in year one, that 100,000 went up 50%. You got 100,000, it goes up 50%. That's pretty simple. How much money are we going to have? I'll wait for you. Pretty simple, right? We're going to have $150,000. What happens the second year? If it goes down 50%, how much money are we going to have? Now, some of us, when I saw that first thing I said, well, if it goes down 50%, I'm going to have $100,000. That's not true, is it? Because if you look at the slide closely, if it goes down 50%, we're going to have $75,000. Now, what is the average rate of return those 2 years? 0. Hold on a second. Now think about this for a second. How did I lose money, but the average rate of return is 0? How did I lose money, but the average rate of return is 0? It's because this is the diagram that's been used for mutual funds, 401ks, for IRAs, all investment advisors. They use average rate of return. And the truth is, there's no really such thing as an average rate of return in order to get real money. We have to talk about the true rate of return. We have to talk about, hey, how much money did I start with? How much money do I have right now? Period. That's all I want to know. How much money did I start with? How much money do I have right now? Don't talk to me about average rate of return. And the reason I'm talking about this is because so many of us get caught up in these 12%. We hear it all the time. Mutual funds going to average 12% over a period of time. What period of time? The stock market itself, since it started, the stock market itself has averaged 7.5% rate of return. Okay, hold on to that for a second. But the true rate of return, right, has been 5.6%. Right. So the true rate of return from 1901 to 2011 has been that. But whenever you put in taxes and fees, that's the real rate of return right there, 3%. 3%. So whenever I talk to people about putting your money in a place to where you can get compound interest, 4 to 6% compound interest, and then we're always conditioned to say, but hold on, man, I can get this over here, or I can get this over here. But we're talking average rate of return, okay? Because we all know this is how the market moves. It goes up, it goes down. It goes up, it goes down. And this is the part that I want everybody to pay attention to. Because if you get this part, you understand the power of the diversified cash flow account. The number one way to grow wealth is to find a vehicle that gives you uninterrupted compound interest, period. The number one inhibitor to people getting wealthy is uninterrupted compound interest. The challenge is this: where can I get uninterrupted compound interest and still be able to use my money? Well, that's the diversified cash flow account. We all heard this quote by Albert Einstein talking about compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world. If you can find a way to put your money somewhere allow it to grow uninterruptedly, compounding. Now you could put yourself in a position to start building, just like this diagram right here. You can put yourself in a position to start having money compound upon compound and start growing with or without you. So I'll wrap up with this. If there was a way you could double your cash flow, eliminate debt, self-finance like bankers do, and if you could do it without working any harder, sacrificing your lifestyle, or spending additional money, would you want to know how? And that's what we're going to finish up with today, because for most of us, we've been told one thing, a rate of return, and yet it hasn't performed like that. For most of us, we've been told, hey, go get a mortgage, go this 2%, 5%, now 6%. We've been told that these interest rates are good, and it's hard to get ahead that way. And so I want to wrap up with this. The reason that we're in a situation, for most of us, that we're in right now is because of knowledge. Will Rogers has this quote, and I always refer back to this, because there's so many of us that we just think we know. Like I'll have people argue with me with the 401k to the ground. I'll have people argue about the mortgages. I'll have all this, and what I just say is, okay, right? Stay blind, okay. And that's why I like MWR so much, because we're in a position right now to where not only can we educate ourselves. I always look, for me, I found out this information, later on in life for myself. But you know what? For my kids, I'm teaching them right now, right? I'm passing on the knowledge that I have right now to the next generation, so the next generation can get ahead. And that's what we're doing here at MWR. That's why we partner with MWR, to put you in a position with this diversified cash flow account to, number one, start understanding where your money is. Number two, let's put together a plan to get out of debt. Let's get out of debt. And then number three, let's talk about growing your money, uninterrupted, compound interest, and still be able to use it. So appreciate everybody. Let me share. Let's go back to the field.
Ike, powerful information, my friend. Powerful information. Listen, I want to say this, and you'll appreciate this. One of the first pieces of advice that I received from my financial consultant as I began this journey to redirect my finances and put myself in a position to create generational wealth, the guy wanted to know if I had a personal relationship with my money. I said, what in the world are you talking about, a personal relationship? I mean, you need to know where the money's going, how long it's going to be gone, what time it's coming back. I mean, you really got to understand your money like that, because we know that money tends to have a mind of its own. And if we don't have experts like yourself around us, and most of us can't, for the most part, afford experts like yourself, because we're priced out until now. And that's what I want people to understand about the benefits of what we have and what you bring. This platform affords the average everyday person to finally win in their financial life. So I've always said, if people are serious about getting their financial life in order, this is the platform to help them do it. Some of the things that you just shared, you talked about passing on that knowledge. When you look at how these systems have been structured throughout the United States, this is why that exclusive club of wealthy continue to stay wealthy, because this is what they're doing. They're passing that knowledge on. They're not going out and offering to the general public, but they're teaching their family members. And those family members are teaching their family members. And as a result, you've got generational wealth.
You know what? You're absolutely right. And when you talk about the personal relationship with money, I think for a lot of us, we've been conditioned for so long to have a bad relationship with money, right? For most of us, we grew up hearing things like money is the root of all what? Evil, right? Money doesn't grow on trees, right? You think we hear all of these things, but we're not hearing the uninterrupted compound interest. You can get that. Hey, we're not hearing that. Hey, guess what? You can partner with MWR, get diversified cash flow account, and put yourself in a position to pay off your home in 9 years or less, right? We're not looking ourselves in the mirror. And I tell people this all the time. You should wake up in the morning, look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I look good and I'm a millionaire. I look good and I'm wealthy. I look good. You should do that, because we got to recondition our mind. We got to tell ourselves that I'm debt free. I love what Brian said in the meeting a few weeks ago. He said we're human beings, not human doings, right? So we have to be there. We have to talk about that. And that's why I love what our partnership and what we're bringing to the table.
Well, one of the other pieces that I love about what you do when you talk about a debt-free lifestyle, and I would say to anybody, think about this. It wouldn't matter whether you got paid every week, every 2 weeks, every month, but when you got paid, say you had no bills, no mortgage, no credit card, no student loan, no car payment, what would life begin to look like? And now here's the other thing that I'm understanding. The only way that you can even position yourself to begin to accumulate long-term wealth is first you've got to be debt-free. So you talk about freeing up all that money to put toward an investment vehicle that can give you a consistent return, like a diversified cash flow account. I mean, you're guaranteed to win.
Yeah, and a lot of advisors, what they'll do is they'll, it's all a game of how much money can they get in their assets under management. And so I was sitting down with some people, and they said, well, they were saving $1,000 a month. They were saving $1,000 a month. So they were scraping to do that. It wasn't easy for them. But we took a look at their debt and their mortgage, and they had in the next 15 years over $360,000 going to interest.
Wow.
And I said, this $1,000 you save, it ain't doing nothing, because this interest is. So you just said exactly right. You got to tackle on debt. But the beautiful part about the diversified cash flow, not only can you pay off debt, but you can start building wealth and retire at the same time. You don't have to choose. It's not one or the other. It's both. And that's what I like about it too.
Well, that's what I love about the flexibility of your program, sir. We're honored to have you on this platform. You truly bring a whole lot. This is powerful. And I would say to anybody out there, if you've not already scheduled your consultation, make that call, set it up, get it done. Daryl Banks, glad to have you back on the platform, sir. You talk about, we talk about knowledge being power, but as Ike always talks about, it's applied knowledge, right? So we take what we've learned and we put this stuff to work. And the advantage there, or the level of comfort for me, is that I've got now a licensed, trained, seasoned professional in this area that I can reach out to, like Ike, and really get a full understanding and walk me through this process. We're not left out here on our own to try to figure this out, because that's where many of us make a mistake. We try to figure this out on our own.
Yeah, I tell you, it's just fantastic financial information that we just received here. And if you ever felt like you were behind the 8 ball, that's no longer the case with this particular item that we now have available to the masses. So you certainly want to set up your consultation as soon as possible to find out how you can qualify for this account. And with that being said, guys, have a good evening.